Hi everyone. In the previous video, I was talking about twin flame healing, and in this video, I want to talk about some of the signs and synchronicities that happened with me when I met my twin flame or realized that I was on a twin flame path. I didn't know anything about my twin prior to when I first found about him. And earlier, many years back, almost 15, 20 years back, when I was in a relationship with someone, at that time I had read about twin flames, and at the time I had wondered, like, it sounded all magical that you are part of the same soul and split into different bodies. And I used to wonder if me and that boyfriend were twin flames, but I realized that we weren't, because we were pretty toxic to each other. We weren't the right fit for each other. If he wanted to go in the direction of the east, I would like to go to the west. And so most of the time we were not on the same page. Our motivations, our goals, our life direction, they were all very divergent. So that's how I understood that it was not a twin flame relationship. And at that time, the material on twin flames was likely very less online. So I didn't even think much about twin flames after that relationship had ended. And it's only like very briefly I had wondered if it was a relationship, like a twin flame relationship, and had totally forgotten that concept in the subsequent years when I have dated other people or when I even got married briefly. And the thought never struck me that I'm on a twin flame journey or anything like that. But last year I was going through a pretty tough time in my life because I had left a lot of my past identity when I moved back to India after having lived in the US for over a decade. And I voluntarily quit living in the US. There were possibilities of me to continue living there if I wanted, by studying there or doing something else over there. But I was very getting very lonely in my life over there, and because of the loneliness and because I realized that I had distanced myself not only from my family, I didn't even have any good close friends, that many close friends in my life anymore. There was one great friendship from my childhood that had continued in my life for years and years. But apart from that one good friendship, most of my other friendships were very distant because people lived in different countries, and people had a very different life trajectory. So they probably didn't think that we had anything in common anymore because they were married, they had kids, their lives were, or they had professional lives, they had issues with their in-laws, and so things like that, and which any normal women in their 30s undergo in my culture. So for me, it was getting very difficult finding like-minded people, and even finding good friends. I did make towards the end of my life in US two very beautiful friendships, and one of the women, I still talk to her regularly, and like no one knowing us would think that we would be good friends because our backgrounds are very different. She's much older than me. She has been divorced a couple of times. She's from a different religion. She has kids. She's a single mom now because, and she is not as educated, but she has that wisdom that works for me, and she has that compassion and love always. Same way I have that compassion and love for her and that respect for her despite her differences. Educational differences don't matter to me. Nothing matters because we just connect with each other, and it was a very random instant in which I met her as a friend. So similarly, twin flame relationships can be like that. It can start very randomly. You may end up meeting a stranger who can become your twin flame. This woman was my sister, soul tribe person, and I think that's why God connected us in such mysterious ways. And even now, I have moved back to India now 4 years, and even in these 4 years, I have been able to talk to her about my journey without judgment. She's the only one with whom I have been able to talk to many things that I have experienced about the twin flame journey that no one else who was Indian or who was my age or who is single like me would understand. But despite her being exactly like opposite of me in most of my life circumstances and identity, we understand each other and we connect to each other. So that is an example of a good friendship and a soul tribe relationship. Similarly, what happened in my twin flame journey was that when I came to India for 2 years, I was a little bit depressed and heartbroken and lost in life because whatever I did in worked as in US, I felt that profession will not yield as much salary. Plus I came back to India, the salary wouldn't be at par to a international salary because the living conditions and living costs in India are very different. But that was one issue. Second issue was I was like completely disheartened that how could I like choose a relationship that was so wrong for me. As soon as I had entered that marriage, I realized it was a wrong relationship and I wanted to get out of it. But because it's a marriage, it's difficult to get out. Even then, my marriage broke pretty quickly, and the universe just set up the circumstances in such a way that the marriage had to end. And for me, I was actually very thankful that those circumstances happened and very grateful to the universe that it happened, because it was becoming very difficult for me to convince people in my life that this is not the right relationship for me. And everyone coming from a very traditional and orthodox way of thinking about marriage, and also it's still a pretty much a taboo in India to be a single divorced woman, and that too I was going to be in my I was mid 30s when this whole thing happened. So yeah, and it was very interesting to me how everyone was trying to convince me, no, you have to stay in this marriage. But I wasn't able to be convinced that this is the right thing. But even then, I didn't have the courage to walk out also, because they were saying, why don't you be practical, why don't you stay in the marriage for the sake of a green card and this and that. And even that was not actually clicking for me. I didn't really want to stay for the sake of a green card also. But again, so for 2 months before I actually separated from my husband, I hardly talked to him because he told me certain words and things which no woman would want to hear from a husband. And after hearing such insults, it was just insults, and there were other issues also. That was not the main issue. That was just one of the issues that triggered a very distant relationship between us for 2 months. I used to study in a different state and he used to live with his parents in a different state. So despite and because we had a distance, phone talks were the only way we could manage to have a good relationship if we had both put the effort. But obviously both of us were in our own insecurities, and because of that we just didn't end up communicating as such. And then when we finally did end up communicating and meeting up during Christmas time, there was just such circumstances set up by the universe that they couldn't finally, take my type of personality. I have a very strong personality. I am very open, and they are exactly the opposite of me. They are very closed off people, and they couldn't understand really a open, outspoken person like me. And fortunately for me, I don't know what it was for them. They said that they wanted my husband and my father-in-law and all, everyone, basically it was like almost like an attack from their side when that happened, the whole situation that happened. And whatever happened, I was at that moment I was heartbroken and I cried my eyes out for months and months. I was depressed about it, that this divorce is going through. And then I finally realized how depressed I had been all my life. the marriage had only triggered the depression to a heightened experience. And of course, when I was depressed, I was the worst person possible. So even for them, I'm sure it was that the person who I married, for him, I'm sure it was like, what type of a wife do I have? She's so depressed, she doesn't do anything, she's not interested in life. So yeah, and so obviously he is also thinking like I made a losing decision when I decided to marry this woman. So whatever happened, and we separated, and then we eventually got divorced. There's a whole history behind that as well. But all these difficult circumstances when I was living in US made me realize I don't want to live in US anymore. And I also could have asked him for alimony, because at the time I was also not working. Since I was a student, I was going to wait a few months, move to my husband's state, look for work over there. That was my plan when I married him. And he was going to sponsor the green card. So those were that is how we had the marriage had happened. Like, he lived in a state where my cousins and friends lived. So for me, it was like a very practical decision. And there were some synchronicities which happened with him as well. Like, some of our food tastes were similar. We were born and brought up in similar states. We had lived in US for a similar number of years, and I appreciated the fact that he lived with his parents and he wanted to take care of them. So all these things had transpired to make me think, okay, I can make it work. But when you are a twin flame, or even when you are not a twin flame, love is not about these practical things. Most of us do go through life, or many of us do go through life thinking, let me tick off these practical boxes about this person and get married to them. Many people do end up doing that, like, okay, they are from a good family, or I like the family, we are from the same culture. Usually there is that way. Our culture was very different. We were not from the same culture also. We were from two different Indian cultures, but because he was Indian, because he was living near my cousins, because he was okay with sponsoring a green card and didn't judge me or anything about it, because and for him also, I'm sure he wanted an educated woman. So I also fit his tick box of certain things. He never told me what I fit, but I can imagine what it would be. So we both fit each other's certain things, and that made it possible for us to get married. But that is not what marriage is. When you tick boxes, and if you don't really have a true heart connection, it is very difficult to maintain a relationship long term. And that is what happened. Our heart connection was initially there is, but that is the illusion of the world. Like, sometimes we can go into the illusion of thinking, okay, these XYZ things have matched between us. He is I talked to his parents. I was the warmest and kindest person to my in-laws. Like, even now I would consider them as my family. Like, I'm not a discriminatory sort over with anyone. So for me, when I spoke to them, I would talk to them and call them mom and dad instead of calling them mother-in-law, father-in-law. That came to me spontaneously. It was not a fake thing, but that is the problem. Like, I was too outspoken, and they were a little bit had that society programming where they thought that being people never say everything about themselves, whereas for me it is like I'll say about almost 90% of the things about myself. Even I may hide certain things about me, but it would be only like 10% of the things about me would be hidden from you. I'm usually a very open book. Even like one of my ex-boyfriends didn't used to appreciate that about me, because he wanted a mystery in a woman. He wanted women who would manipulate him or twist his mind. That is how he would interact with me. And that's where that first boyfriend, I don't know whether I mentioned in this video or the previous one, he was like that, who would want mind game playing women, and I was never that sort. So that's why also our relationship at that time hadn't happened. And this was kind of like a repeat of that relationship. Another thing was, in this relationship, why I was getting very suffocated was because any of the things that I really never wanted in my life. Like anytime I have had heartaches or disappointments in my life, or even when talking to a guy, I realized, okay, we are not a match because of XYZ reason. So what happened was all those tick boxes of things I wouldn't want in a relationship started happening in this relationship. Everything that I didn't want happened. So that is why I was getting like, it was impossible for me to explain to others why I'm feeling this, but that is what happened, that whatever you don't want is happening to you. So basically I manifested the darkest relationship I could manifest for myself. And that's when I realized, when the marriage broke, even though I was depressed after the marriage, I was also happiest when I came back to India in the first few months. And the reason why I was happiest was because I realized that there is no point in life being the saddest person and always like thinking about negative things and worrying about future, worrying about things like the materialistic aspect of life. Because until then I used to always worry about the materialistic aspect. Sorry about this, I keep doing this, but I got a chalk allergy suddenly. So I used to always worry and be very practical minded in all my decisions. Like in 12th standard, when most people in my colony, where I grew up, there it was a government colony, so all government workers of a certain organization used to live in that community. And in that, at least 70% of the population would either opt for science degrees or engineering degrees. So they would all become engineers. Like 50% of that population was engineers, and the rest would be either doctors or any other science profession. So at the time also I chose the subjects which would get me to go into either direction. So always in my life, when I was given choices to do something, to go into a certain profession or study a certain subject, I would end up like going in two different directions, just because I would think that is the safest and most practical way to approach studies. So I would never have a unidirectional approach, like this is the thing I want to do. I never had that in me at that time. I wanted to be a writer when I used to be a teen, or I wanted to travel the world. Those were my dreams as a teenager, but I never dared to pursue them because I was like, people will not accept that in my family, or people will not support it if I do it, and all the societal programming that goes with it went with it. And as a very small child, I used to say I wanted to be a doctor also, but I never chose the doctor profession because I didn't like the way doctors would have to cut cadavers, and that used to nauseate me in biology. So that's the reason why I ended up doing a very different degree. I went and became a pharmacist instead, and that is a whole different history. So that was my past life. Like I was a scientist, I had been a pharmacist, I had been other things, other professions when I was in US. And so when I came back to India, I was getting a crisis of conscience. I was in my mid-30s. Now, the research work that I had done was almost a decade before that. Then, before I came, I was actually studying MBA, but I didn't have enough MBA experience. I had only 1 year of internship experience. So, qualification-wise, while I was qualified for many different fields, getting into any particular job seemed a little bit of a difficulty to me. And also when I would look at the job descriptions also, none of them seemed to suit me or interest me. They were too corporate, or they were only focusing on one of the qualities that I had. So because of that, I didn't know what to do. I ended up going to a Vipassana retreat at that time after 1 year of living in India. And in that Vipassana retreat, I asked universe, like, I want to know whether I should go back to US or should I stay in India. At that time, I got the guidance, or I felt that, if you want to go to US, then give it a try, one more try. So I did give it one more try, and I applied for a fellowship for my healthcare administration degree that I had done also in US. So based on that degree, I was eligible for fellowships in hospitals. So I applied for those fellowships, and I actually only got I had applied only to 4 fellowships, I think, and I got a call from only one place for an interview, and it didn't work out. So then people were like, why don't you go to Canada? Why don't you go to Australia? Because you're qualified and everything, you should try these countries. So I gave IELTS, also the English language exam, in order to apply to these countries for visas. But again, there was a part of me which didn't feel like, going to a different country was the right thing for me. I somehow was very tired of having lived alone and independently in US for so many years. Most of the life in US, like at least 1/3 to half of that life, I had lived by myself without any roommates. Many a times I didn't even have close friendships. So it was a very lonely experience. And there was a reason, because I'm a twin flame. There is always, and not even because, like always in our life, if you reflect on the choices you made in your life or the life path that you take in your life, there is always a deeper reason for that. And when you start awakening, you start realizing the reasons behind the choices you have made in life. There was a reason why I had to go and live in a different country. There was a reason why I had to have this lonely existence also for many years in a different country when I wouldn't have friends, because I can then help those people who are going through the same struggles that I went through. Then another thing that happened was, so all these things were going on, and I was not feeling like applying to Canada or Australia or any other country. So I started thinking like the ideal job for me would be some job in US or something which needs my type of qualifications, but which I can do work from home type of a job from India. So I applied, and another job that was, I also started liking some, even though pharmacy was my background, pharmaceutical industry was my background, I started liking even herbal medicine and things like that. So I got a couple of jobs I applied to. One of them, I got an interview for a cosmetic job, but it was about herbal cosmetics. But that job also had a social purpose to it. And social purpose was another thing that was fascinating me for a very long time. Even in US, I used to be involved in some social endeavors, like as a volunteer. But I didn't used to be that involved in the volunteer activities. I would do it for a month or so and with enthusiasm. Then I would quit it, or the friends would move away and I also would lose interest, or I would get busy with something else professionally in my life. And that way I never, ended up being very into doing volunteer work. Even in India, I did it for a few months, where I was volunteering for someone, and it didn't work out. So when I found this job which had this volunteer aspect, I applied, I got the interview and everything. But eventually, because maybe it was not the right choice for me, it fell through in the later stages of the negotiation. So then I got a job for a US company which was working for herbal products, nutraceuticals, and I felt that is the perfect job. And everything that they wanted from someone in India, I fit that role. So I used to feel that I am the best candidate for them, and I was actually qualified, more qualified than many people in the company. But there was a hierarchy. So obviously the people who were higher than me, they were a little less qualified. So they didn't understand the potential of the things that I could do. So obviously I was feeling like very suffocated and not able to realize my full potential here. Many parts of my thinking process or how this company could go in a better direction, all those were getting ignored. So it was getting very frustrating for me, and I started having a crisis. And that crisis was that this job, which qualification wise I am a good fit, the job workload was also not very difficult. It was a very for my capacity, the type of work also I had done in US, this was very light workload. It was not a heavy workload, but I felt like I am not using my 100% potential. I felt I was only using 20% of the qualifications, 20-30% of my potential was getting used. In fact, like if I was giving 100% potential, it was backfiring on me. Or if I was, I realized like I tried to give 100% in the initial few months. Then I realized that there's no point. Like if I give 100%, I was not really receiving any feedback from them about the work because they were not qualified to understand the importance of the type of work and advice I was trying to give them to make them, more streamlined. Or it was a new company. They were also learning as they were going, but the people who were managing it, they didn't have an idea how to streamline it in the right direction. So I was like, what is the point of working in a company which I can obviously see they're going in a path that is not really good for them, not really beneficial for them in the long run. It was just very mismanaged. And the other crisis was, what is the point of working with co-workers who were not at the same level in terms of potential? Like there were a few co-workers who had the same potential as me, but there were others who were just, doing the barest minimum just because they had their own life problems. Like now when I think about it, I understand why people are like that, and that is how it is in groups. Like even in US when we were doing MBA, in groups we would have that everyone is intelligent, but not everyone is willing to put that effort into doing things. Not everyone is going to be that sincere when they do certain things or when certain projects are assigned to them. So that type of a work atmosphere was happening. Like everyone was not on the same page, and I personally couldn't like have that personality where I knew that if I do only 30-40% of the work required, like what they would ask us to do, I could do 100% of the work. I could give 200% to them, but it would not matter if I do 100%, 200%, 50%, 30%. So that was frustrating me. And that because I was getting this crisis, I also started losing interest in the work, and somehow I got like burnt out or something, apathetic towards it. So I just couldn't find I was feeling like listless. I was feeling restless. I didn't know like why like this work is so simple, but why I can't bring myself to do it. Instead I would watch like TV shows, or I would watch YouTube videos. And then what started happening was like I was like, I really need some peace and guidance in my life. Until my divorce, I had always, even the time of my divorce, I knew this is the right decision for me. I usually had a direction in which I can go in life. I was never like this undecided about things in my life. So when I got this crisis, I started meditating a lot and listening to YouTube videos for meditation. Before sleeping, I would listen to videos. Meditative Minds is a channel which I watched a lot. They had great chakra and aura cleansing meditations. And those meditations started working for me, because how I realized they started working, and I wouldn't really meditate on them. I would just play it on the background while I was doing some of my online work. And so it used to calm me like while doing that work, and make me feel a little less listless, little less stressed about my work. And that is when I suddenly got like my solar plexus chakra got activated when I was listening to these meditative mind chakra cleansing meditation. And how do you feel a chakra getting activated, or like when you feel the chakra, is when you get like a buzz type of a feeling in your stomach, like energy, like a vortex of energy is circling around near your abdominal area. So that is how I knew that my chakra was activated, and that is how I knew like these meditations were working for me, and in other ways also they started working. So, and because I was so confused about my soul purpose, I also got like was listening to some Wayne Dyer videos on how to live life, and in one of those videos someone had posted a his R meditation, and that R meditation was a manifestation meditation. Before all this, many years, even in US, I have done certain manifestations about what I would want from my ideal life partner, or I had made peace with certain relationship issues that I have had in the past and things like that. So I would practice this on and off, but I had never been so focused, and I had read The Secret, so I knew about the law of attraction. But here the law of attraction was also not working because I was so confused, like where do you go in life? And when I did this R meditation, I specifically asked, connect me to my soul purpose. So few weeks after that, around that time, there was suddenly on social media only, I started like seeing certain videos in which I suddenly started getting activated, and my solar plexus chakra would get activated. And now these were not meditation videos. I was curious what is going on, that my solar plexus chakra is getting activated whenever I see certain videos of a certain someone. And that was very strange to me. Why would that happen? Why would a person cause someone's chakra to get activated? So I googled upon it. And the only thing that made sense when in the Google searches was that one post someone had posted that chakras can get activated, Kundalini can get activated when you meet your twin flame. And I know what is Kundalini energy. Kundalini energy is also related to our chakra system. So that's when I put two and two together. Like my Kundalini might be getting activated, and Kundalini symptoms were not matching for me because only one chakra was activated at that time. And so I then started looking at what are twin flames, and I started reading some twin flame stories. And I read and read and read. And in the meantime, the job was getting like completely like ignored, and there was like I was so bad at that work that, and I was not able to put only not even 50-60% that I was putting, or even 100% that I was putting. It just waned, like from 100% it went to 80%, from 80% my work interest went to 50%, and it was going bad, worse and worse. So I just told my job senior that don't pay me this month that much money because I couldn't make the hours was the hourly consultant fees. So I just told her, don't pay me like certain percentage of the fees, just take it off. So that's what she did. Even then 1 month passed and I still again couldn't focus. So then finally I said, you know what, this month you just don't pay me at all because I didn't work, because I was completely into twin flames. So I just told them don't pay me, and I just finished whatever things that needed to be handed over to them. I did that, and I just quit that job because I just knew at that time that this job is not working for me. And then when I was reading about twin flames, there was one lady who had posted how to find if someone is your twin flame via universe's signs, and she had said a very interesting method, and I feel some of you can try to use this. But I do feel that if you want proper guidance, you have to have a little bit of chakra cleansing. Your energy should be balanced enough to be able to manifest it correctly. But I'm not sure. I think like I was doing chakra cleansing. That is the reason why. And I was listening to Wayne Dyer. Like I was doing certain spiritual stuff already, which is why the universe maybe showed me the signs. I don't know. But what happened was, the technique was you have to ask for a specific object that you want to see, and if you want confirmation from the universe that this person is your twin flame. So for example, you can say, I want to see a pink elephant. Now a pink colored elephant is pretty rare for us to see anywhere. So you can choose something like that. And you say that you want to see it 3 times in a row, 3 times, 3 days in a row. So I asked certain sign like that. and it was amazing. Actually, I got not only that 3 days in a row, but I got more signs than that. And in fact, some of those signs I was like not sure, because it was like, so say you said pink elephant and you started seeing like a pinkish elephant. It's like pink and red toned. Then you're confused. Is it red or is it pink? Should I consider it as red or pink? So certain signs like that also happened. So I would ignore those, because I was like, what if I'm manifesting the wrong way? So that is what happened. Then the other thing that happened was I started seeing their names, and there are other things, and I started suddenly getting all these romantic songs. Then I started seeing videos, like the universe was sending me videos about other famous twin flame couples. And it is not like immediately, like when the universe said this person is your twin flame, I think I was pretty excited initially, because I found it very incredible. How can this person be my twin flame? We're very different from each other. Like that friend that I told you about, who is so different from me that people wouldn't think that these two people can be friends. My twin flame and I are also like that. We are in such opposite spectrum in certain ways that people may think initially, when thinking about us, that how can these two people be twin flames? They are so different from each other. So that's why, while I was excited, I was also very not sure whether to believe it or not. But it also gave a magical quality to life. Like, how can wow, this is so cute if this person is my twin flame. And the other magical thing was, later now, like almost like 3-4 months later, I realized, yeah, he was likely my, like, I still have moments of doubt about him, whether he's my twin flame. Like, initial few months, the universe sent me so many signs about him that I was like 100% convinced he's my twin flame. I did all these twin flame, because I started getting all these healing meditations, twin flame meditations. I started working on the healing. I started doing the healing. I started doing the meditations. I opened up my heart chakra even. So there were 2 chakras which opened up really marvelously. And but again they closed also, because I think I got afraid. So that is another part of the journey. Like, initially you are in that magic phase, so everything magical starts happening. So at that time I was 100% convinced, oh, I'm in such a beautiful journey. I trust the universe, I trust God, and God was sending all these lovely signs, like all these love notes and love letters, which I was like, okay. And part of the twin flame journey is, people say that first the connection is made in the 5D, in the higher dimension. And from the higher dimension, the connection comes to you, to the earth. But it takes a while for it to come from the 5D to the earth, and slowly it comes. And I did feel once or twice, without knowing the face of the person, like, in the sense that initial signs were given that this person is your twin flame. But again, like anything else that I did, all the energy work I have been doing, I have been pretty blind at it. So, like, some twin flames have this quality of clear audience and clear cognizance and clairvoyance. So they can see, hear their twin flames, but I can't. And some people have dreams about their twin flames. None of that has happened to me, but many other things have happened, which like via messages on other people's t-shirts. When I'm walking on the road, I'll be reminded of my twin flame, or via stories I'm watching on a TV show, I will be like, oh, this moment reminds me of how it was with me and my twin flame. Or a movie I will watch and I would be like, oh, this is what might be happening to my twin flame, because some of these things started resonating at the right time. I would get certain messages about my twin flame, which would make me realize what is going on in his life. And also, when I realized that he is my twin flame, one other thing that I had done was, I wanted to know about him, because I didn't know anything about him until then. So I had asked, like, tell me what I need to know about him. So the universe started showing me some of his wounds, and that is how I connected. Like, and because it is, I think, from the feminine, divine feminine side, you start connecting to your twin via the heart chakra, and because of that, you start understanding that person's heart, I think. So at least that has been my journey, that I feel I understand his heart, And for me, I have always wished like people would understand my mind, or appreciate things about my mind, because many a times I'm not the typical female personality where I would manipulate people into something, or I would lie about something. Most of the time I'll say what I mean, but again, not with everyone can I express every aspect of my personality. Like most of the times I've realized with my friends and all, if they're married, I'll talk about married people stuff. What will I talk about news articles to them? And if they are into something else, I'll talk about that interest of theirs. So I end up usually talking with people in the manner in which they will understand whatever I can talk about. Obviously, and I want an intellectual conversation and intellectual stimulation in conversations with people, but very rarely do I find those like-minded people with whom I can have that same level of intellectual or spiritual type of conversations. So, but with my twin flame, I thought I had that potential. The universe showed me his personality, so I started I got many information about him through the universe. He never has said and expressed anything about his personality to me, but I still feel I know him very well because the universe showed it to me. But that is the thing. In the initial bubble phases, universe started showing me all the beautiful things, or the things that will connect my heart. I'm a softie, so it showed me all these aspects of his personality which would connect me heart-wise with him. But later on, when it is time for you to start doing your soul work, that is when the universe gets very sneaky, and it will sneak in all these doubts about your twin flame to you. And the same source that started giving me good insights about him is the same source that started showing me the doubts, like maybe he's dating someone else, maybe he's married to someone else, and so many other things started coming up, and I started getting extremely jealous. I posted in my previous video too that jealousy is one of my issues. I'm still working on it. So that is how the universe does it. The universe connects you also. The universe wants you to meet each other. I have met my twin flame once in my life, and that day, one of the other things that happened, none of the chakras got activated for me that day. I don't know whether I was trying to block something on that day, but what happened was our physical system got connected somehow, I felt. And there are many other instances where I have realized that physically we might be connected in a way that I know that when I was a child, I was a Bengali, and Bengalis usually eat very sweet food, and they actually add a pinch of sugar to some of the food that we cook. But I used to love adding spices to my food, and I suspect that the part of India where my twin flame is from, there people actually eat a lot of spicy food. So as a child, I used to love eating spicy food, and he is the entirely opposite person. He loves eating sweets, and eating spicy food is not good for his stomach. And with me, that has started happening, and I like sweets, but not as much as him, I feel. And maybe my love for sweets is equal as him. I can't say that for sure, but definitely it is interesting that my stomach cannot tolerate any spicy food anymore. And it didn't happen one fine day, but over time this has happened. Like when in my teens and 20s, I used to eat a lot of spicy food, and almost daily or every other day. Whereas in my 30s and late 20s, I slowly started weaning off eating spicy food. And because I was living a US lifestyle, I got used to eating bland food. So I acquired that taste. Like initially, it was hard for me to acquire the blandness of food in US. Like they add salt and pepper, but it is not the same as how Indian food is spicy. So I got off eating spicy food, and now when I even in India, after I have come back to India, even though earlier I used to relish eating really hot food and really spicy and food from all parts of India, now my stomach can't tolerate it as much, and I eat much less of those type of foods. So that is another way you can basically start merging and becoming very like attuned to each other. So some of your qualities will change. It can be a personality change, it can be taste change, your food taste can change, your music taste might change, I guess. I don't know, but it is interesting, all these things happen. Like dancing, another thing was very interesting. I did start doing Zumba in US towards the last few years of my life there, and but all through childhood I had never done any dancing. I had joined a dance class once in first grade, but after 1 month I had quit that because of some, I was afraid of the teacher. But it was interesting that I started doing Zumba, and then suddenly, even though I used to love Zumba in US and everything, when I came back to India, at that time also I used to love Zumba, but there was like a phase where I became like, after I met my twin flame, the enthusiasm for dance increased a little bit more than I ever used to have that sort of enthusiasm. Like I do think you tend to influence each other in a way, like not like in a negative way. It was a very interesting transition I had in my personality. Like say if I enjoy dancing 90% of the time, now it has become like I enjoy almost 99% of the time, something like that. So, and another thing that happened to me after I met him, or after I actually saw him, not met him, but after I saw him, I started like painting. I used to love painting as a kid, but it was mostly drawing, copying someone else's art, and coloring. Drawing and coloring is what I used to love when I was a kid, and I used to go to art class. But in US, when I used to live there, and in some of my lonely times, I have done some art projects, but influenced by friends. Like they are doing something artistic, I'm like, okay, let me also give it a try one day. So I tried oil painting, and I see what oil painting is all about. But when I tried oil painting, it was very disastrous for me. So I was like, I'm not touching oil painting. Then I did a couple of acrylic paintings also. So I had started doing a little bit of painting, but again, I would do one, I made like 2 or 3 acrylic painting things and then left it at that. And I didn't pursue it for a while. So something like that happened. But after coming to India also, so there was like a 5-6 years gap in between that I haven't touched as such any artistic things, or many years you can consider that I haven't done anything artistic. Even like the artwork that I had done in US for my friend once was very basic, simple stuff that even a child can do, that type of artwork. But when I started painting, suddenly like my artwork changed into something different. And I feel all the artwork that I'm doing right now, whatever paintings I do, they're guided by the universe in a way, because I don't consider myself an artist, but I can still see, like, there is something in those paintings that wasn't there before I met my twin flame. So things like that can start happening. Your inner qualities will start expressing itself. Either your qualities will merge and you will become a better version at something that you used to like doing earlier, or you may get a new quality that you didn't used to have, or you will just enhance the level at which you used to operate from before. So it is indeed a very magical journey, but it is also a very hard journey of self-learning, self-discovery. There's a lot of tower moments I've gone through ever since I have met him, because each of those tower moments works on our insecurities, works on helping us heal, helping us see, like it is like a lens is put on you, and that lens shows you like which is the area which causes the suffering and pain in your heart, and which is the area where you need to focus on so that your heart can heal, so that the heart gets filled with loving energy, because that is the purpose of us living in this earth. We want to experience love. We want to experience how love feels in a physical body. We want to experience the magic of living on this earth. But many people over the centuries have forgotten that magic, and people who are in the awakening process are trying to figure out a way how to get back that magic. And when you're a true twin flame, you will slowly yourself start wanting to discover that magic and wanting to figure out like what is it about this person that is drawing these different changes in me, because and my life completely flipped. So right now I'm unemployed and I'm doing a lot of volunteer work and things like that, and I'm happy with that change that happened. But if 10 years back or 8 years back I told myself that you're going to be doing all these things, I would not have believed it, because that was not a part of my personality, part of my identity 8 years back, 6 years back, even 4 years back. So a twin flame process can change you very drastically. Sometimes your family and friends will also not recognize you. So I'll end with this. It's a pretty long video. Sorry about that. But I hope you enjoyed my chat about my journey, and pardon all the goof ups that I've done in between. And have a good night.